hidden in the bushes. The rocks for the ambush were waist high, and the twigs that had been thrust in the crevices between them were withered, and there, on the hypothesis that the Red Fox was the assassin, Hale tried to put himself after the deed into the Red Fox's shoes. The old man had turned up on the guard before noon. Then he must have gone somewhere first, or have killed considerable time in the woods. He would not have crossed the road, for there were two horses on the other side. There would have been no object in going on over the mountain unless he meant to escape, and if he had gone over there for another reason, he would hardly have had time to get to the Court House before noon. Nor would he have gone back along the road on that side, for on that side, too, was a cabin not far away. So Hale turned and walked straight away from the road, where the walking was easiest, down a ravine and pushing this way and that through the bushes, where they looked easiest. Half a mile down the ravine he came to a little brook, and there in the black earth was the faint print of a man's left foot, and in the hard crust across was the deeper print of his right, where his weight in leaping had come down hard. But the prints were made by a shoe and not by a moccasin, and then Hale recalled exultantly that the Red Fox did not have his moccasins on the morning he turned up on guard. All the while he kept a sharp lookout right and left on the ground. The Red Fox must have thrown his cartridge shell somewhere, and for that Hale was looking. Across the brook he could see the tracks no further, for he was too little of a woodsman to follow so old a trail. But as he stood behind a clump of rhododendron, wondering what he could do, he heard the crack of a dead stick down the stream, and noiselessly he moved further into the bushes. His heart thumped in the silence, the long silence that followed, for it might be a hostile Tolliver that was coming. So he pulled his pistol from his holster, made ready, and then, noiseless as a shadow, the Red Fox slipped past him along the path, in his moccasins now, with his big Winchester in his left hand. The Red Fox, too, was looking for that cartridge shell, for only the night before he had heard for the first time of the whispered suspicions against him. He was making for the blind, and Hale trembled at his luck. There was no path on the other side of the stream, and Hale could barely hear him moving through the bushes. So he pulled off his boots and, carrying them in one hand, slipped after him, watching for dead twigs stooping under the branches or sliding sidewise through them when he had to brush between their extremities, and pausing every now and then to listen for an occasional faint sound from the Red Fox ahead. Up the ravine the old man went to a little ledge of rocks, beyond which was the blind, and when Hale saw his stooped figure slip over that and disappear, he ran noiselessly towards it, crept noiselessly to the top, and peeped carefully over to see the Red Fox with his back to him and peering into a clump of bushes hardly 10 yards away. While Hale looked, the old man thrust his hand into the bushes and drew out something that twinkled in the sun. At the moment Hale's horse nickered from the bushes, and the Red Fox slipped his hand into his pocket, crouched listening a moment, and then, step by step, backed toward the ledge. Hale rose. "I want you, Red." The old man wheeled. The wolf's snarl came, but the big rifle was too slow. Hale's pistol had flashed in his face. "Drop your gun." Paralyzed, but the picture of white fury, the old man hesitated. "Drop your gun." Slowly the big rifle was loosed and fell to the ground. "Back away, turn around, and hands up." With his foot on the Winchester, Hale felt in the old man's pockets and fished out an empty cartridge shell. Then he picked up the rifle and threw the slide. "It fits all right. March toward that horse." Without a word the old man slouched ahead to where the big black horse was restlessly waiting in the bushes. "Climb up," said Hale. "We won't ride and tie back to town, but I'll take turns with you on the horse." The Red Fox was making ready to leave the mountains, for he had been falsely informed that Rufe was to be brought back to the county seat next day, and he was searching again for the sole bit of evidence that was out against him. And when Rufe was spirited back to the jail and was on his way to his cell, an old freckled hand was thrust between the bars of an iron door to greet him, and a voice called him by name. Rufe stopped in amazement. Then he burst out laughing. He struck then at the pallid face through the bars with his manacles and cursed the old man bitterly. Then he laughed again horribly. The two slept in adjoining cells of the same cage that night, one waiting for the scaffold and the other waiting for the trial that was to send him there. And away over the Blue Mountains, a little old woman in black sat on the porch of her cabin as she had sat patiently many and many a long day. It was time, she thought, that the Red Fox was coming home. End of chapter 27.